So I was thinking as an exercise, we could build a new pack that connects to the Todoist API. Todoist is an app that manages your to-do list, and it's kind of can show you a nice way we can integrate with an outside service. So I was thinking something like a tasks formula that just returns the text of the tasks that you have to do. And the quickest way to get started building a pack is Pack.new. So as before, we had Coda.new for building a Coda doc. Pack.new automatically spins you up a brand new pack in our Pack Studio web editor. So I didn't have to download anything. I didn't have to install any applications. There is a command line route you can go if that's where you're more comfortable. But for quick tinkering, Pack.new is a quick way to get started. As you can see, we have some code some samples we can start with, or we can just start with an empty pack that includes basically nothing. The first thing you got to think about when you're connecting to an outside service is how do I authenticate? Now, some APIs you're going to use may be free, or they might not require you to sign in. But I know Todoist, I need to get my tasks, so I got to think about authentication. Now, as you can see here, we have / commands in Coda, but also in the Pack Studio editor. So I can do / authentication, and boom, there's something there called set user authentication. That sounds like what I want. How do I want this user to authenticate? There are a bunch of different options, but I know from my experience that Todoist supports passing in a token in the header, the authentication header. And so that's actually all I need. This is telling Coda the user will have to provide a token, put it into the right header. And now I'm done with authentication. I actually don't need to write any other code for authentication. Coda handles all the management of your keys and your tokens. It automatically adds them into requests when necessary. You're done. That's all you have to do for authentication. So now let's write that tasks formula. So I had here before, my goal was to have a formula called tasks that output the tasks. So what I can do is a / and there's add formula. You can see I have a bunch of different options there. Let's just go with string to start, and then we'll change it as we go. So this kind of gives me the outline of a formula in a pack. I'm going to make that a little bigger for y'all. So the first thing is every formula needs a name. I said I want to call that tasks, and a description for the user. List your tasks. It can take parameters. So formulas can take parameters in case you want to have somebody filter or send values. You can actually have parameters in the formula. In this case, I don't need any formulas parameters. I'm just going to delete that and make it an empty list of parameters, saying this particular formula, it doesn't need any input from the user. Then there's the result type. What should it return? So I chose the string option here, but actually what I need, since I want a list of things, is I want the array option. So that says this formula is going to return a list of things, an array. But then you have to specify, well, what is in the array? We are very strongly typed. And so what I specify here in this items is what is the type of each item. And so I'm going to say the type of each item is going to be a string because I just want to return the like text of that task. So this is saying return an array of strings. That's basically just how I define my result type. Now, all of the hard work of the pack is here in the execute function. This is what actually gets run when the user runs your formula. So this is where I actually now have to do the work of connecting to Todoist and getting the tasks. If I head back over here, I can pop open their documentation. This is where you can learn about how you can pass tokens for authorization. But in this case, I want to get the user's active tasks. Blow that up a little bigger for y'all. And you can see they have a URL endpoint here for retrieving the tasks. That's what I want. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to bring it back here. And now what I need to do is pull data down from that URL. Now, in packs, we have our own custom way of fetching data from an outside source. You can't use a standard node library. You can't use the browser's fetch or XML HTTP requests. We have our own special API for pulling data from the web, and that's called the fetcher. And so we access it here with context.fetcher.fetch. And we have a whole lot of documentation on how this works, so I'm not going to spend too much time on the details. But this is how I pull in outside data. And the two things I need to specify is what HTTP method, and this is a get method, and what URL, and then I'm going to paste in that URL I just pulled from their documentation. So this is going to make a request to that API and bring in the results. And then we do use async programming, which is a little different if you're coming from AppScript. So I would have to store the response that comes back, and I have to await the request to finish because it is going to be running asynchronously. Now this response object has what came back from the API here in the body. since it's JSON response, we actually will automatically parse that JSON response into an object. And so this body will be exactly the same as the JSON returned by the parsed version of the JSON returned by this API. So in this case, it's what's shown on the right here. So I can see that they're returning me an array of objects, and each object has the actual content of the task in a field called content. So what I want to do is return that response body, and each one of those is a thing. So I'm going to map it. I'm going to say each task goes to task.content. So what I'm returning here is, for each of the tasks returned, I want to return its content field. So an array of strings which matches my result type. All right. If everything's going correctly, this should be all the code I actually need to write to make this work. Fingers crossed. Right now, this pack is untitled, so I can just go to the top here and call it my Todoist from the webinar. And to actually build your code, you just hit a build button here at the bottom. So the build button is what's actually going to compile your code and upload it to the server. Now, it gave me a handy warning here, which is that I'm connecting to an outside server, but I did not declare that. So we do require you to declare what servers you're connecting to for security reasons. And so there's a / command here for add network domain. And I just have to say I'm going to be connecting to the Todoist.com domain. Build again, and it is compiling your pack, building it, verifying it, uploading it, basically everything, and boom, my pack is ready to go. And it even prompts you, hey, do you want to create a new doc to test this out in? I actually already have this Packs Playground doc over here. I'm just going to use it. So I go Insert, Packs, and right along all of the other packs I've inserted into this document, I can see my new pack, the Todoist Webinar pack. And it's going to ask me to sign in. Because I specified that users need to sign in, it already knows, and it's prompting me to sign in. Now it says, hey, I'm going to need your API token from Todoist. Now, I happen to know that in Todoist, there's a place to get that token. You may have to instruct your users where to find it. In this case, I know I can go to my user settings, integrations, and copy my API token. Then back here, paste in my token, hit continue, and it says setup complete. So I've now signed into this pack and added it to the doc, and you can see it has presented me the list of building blocks available in that pack. This pack only includes the tasks formula today, and you can see it right here. I can actually drag it straight into my doc. It'll write out the formula for me, tasks Eric Kalita, and boom, there's my list of tasks coming from Todoist. You want proof that that's actually the same tasks. Here they are. Quit the exporting, focus on the importing, and there it is right there. And so just like before with calendar, I can then call bulleted list on it and get it to show up as a bulleted list and continue to iterate and build. So I think I did that in just about like 5 or 6 minutes. Of course, I know my way around a pack, but you can see that basically you don't have to spend a long time on authorization or authentication. You just tell us basically how it works, and we'll handle collecting all the information, storing it, sending it, and keeping it secure. And then for actually just adding formulas and building code, it's pretty lightweight. There's some definition up ahead in the front end where you say, this is my formula, this is the parameters, this is the result type. You write a little bit of JavaScript. I think here the total amount that I wrote, was that five lines, and that's with a little bit of formatting going on there. So it doesn't take very much to connect to an external API. And